Now this will tell us. And that's pretty conclusive. Still going. Close. I think he got it down.
How strong is he?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us once again on the Pick and Go Super Rugby podcast. Things are heating up. We've got just 10 days until the competition gets underway in Super Rugby Pacific, and this is the big one. Last week we sort of went through a few of the second tier sides, maybe shall we say, in Super Rugby Pacific, but we've got all the big dogs
and the Hurricanes.
Thank you, Paul.
Yep.
Always good to get an early contribution. Get your hands on the ball early, get into the game, feel like you're involved. So,
but yes, before you get carded.
Yeah, I can attest to that. How are you, Paul? That's obviously Paul Moati joining us from Untitled.
Yeah, very good, thanks. As you say, not long to go now before the start of the season, and really looking forward to it, actually. Even though, well, they're in a bubble, so it's sort of and I was quite looking forward to heading down to the tin to see a few games, but at this stage, that ain't going to be happening.
No, certainly not at this stage. The bubble clearly includes Jack's Point golf course, as I noticed on Instagram yesterday, though. So happy for the
was getting out.
Yeah, happy to see him get out. And joining us as well, Richard Laddie. How have you been, mate?
Very good, thank you, Patrick. Very good. Yeah, just 10 days. Can't believe it. It's going to be great. It was good to get some rugby in the weekends. It's some Six Nations, a couple of good games there, and to talk about. But I'm sure we'll get to that a bit later on.
Yeah, may or may not have even chuck the Chiefs in a multi in a preseason game, so don't judge me for that. But got to do what you got to do. The punters need their preseason too. You got to build up the legs as you head into. Can't just be coming in cold turkey the first Friday night of the season. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but now we'll get into it. Just a few little notes to touch on before we get into the team previews. First of all, I thought maybe as well just give a quick shout out to those preseason games. Obviously, the Chiefs did a bit of a job on Minor Pacifica on Friday night at Mount Smart. Running up was 50 or 60 points in the end. So I don't know. Was there anything that you thought was just cause for concern for Minor Pacifica there, Richard, or just it's classic preseason? Can't really read too much from it?
Yeah, you can't really look too much into preseason. It's always a bit of wild. They have basically two teams that they sort of jump on there. Minor Pacifica play well. I think they held Chiefs off for about 20 minutes. That first sort of 20 minutes. Got a bit unlucky. They had disallowed try and they had an intercept when it was about 14-0, and then the Chiefs scored from that, so it went up to 21-0. So could have gone either way. But I think the main concern for me would be that last sort of 20 minutes, which I sort of talked about last week, where I'm a bit worried there. Some of those New Zealand teams might just run away with it a bit, and the Chiefs certainly did in that preseason game. So whether that'll be an indication of what we're in for, we'll see. Obviously, preseason's a lot different to the real thing, but it was good they got a try on the board, and it was good to see them. It was sad to see the empty stands in Mount Smart. It made me think how good it would have been just to see the sea of their Minor Pacifica supporters in there. But it is what it is for now, and we'll see what happens in the season.
Did you have any learnings from that game, Paul?
Learnings, fair dinkum.
Got him.
Yeah, it's going to be a long, long season for Moana Pacifica. Unless they get early points on the board, and I'm talking individual games, unless they get early points on the board, I can see the cricket scores going up, coming up. So, yeah, it's going to be tough, and it's going to be even tougher now that they're sort of down in Queenstown, away from their fans, because I'm sure that they would feed off their fans during games. That won't be the case. So it's going to be a long, hard slog for those boys this season, I believe.
And just another bit of news that came out since we recorded last Thursday. I think it came out pretty much straight afterwards, but now the most Friday and Saturday night games are going to be played under the roof at Forsyth Bar instead of down at Rugby Park in Picale. I have to think they're probably going to feel the brunt of that more than anyone else, just the pace those games are played at under the roof. If they're really struggling to get up Super Rugby pace compared to everyone else, you could really see them getting run off their feet late in a few of those games, would you? Especially like week one against the Blues and all the depth the Blues have got there. Would you agree with that, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, there's no real easy draw for Moana Pacifica. They're just going to get week after week face a top team Whereas if we look the other side of the Tasman, the Fijian Drua will have not quite so tough a draw to start the season off. So, yeah, it's really going to be hard for those boys, and they're going to need some, I guess, quite a bit of direction from the top, from the leadership team, to just keep everyone sort of heading in the same direction. Otherwise, yeah, I think it will get pretty ugly in a number of games for those guys. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they stand up and put up a bit of competition. But I just, after that trial game against the Chiefs, oh boy.
Yeah, absolutely. But hopefully they can keep their eyes on the sort of main goal, and just being such a new experience, and it doesn't beat them down too much, because like we said last week, you do want to see them have some good performances. But are you boys joining me on the Highlanders bandwagon now that they get to play all their games at home pretty much? That's got to favour the Highlanders more than anyone else right now that we're at Forsyth Bar.
Well, they know how to play under the roof, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think that some of those, someone like the Blues might really benefit from it with the way they play. Even, I don't know if you saw the highlights from the that pre-season match against the Hurricanes on the weekend. It was like horrendous weather, but they were throwing it around and they were doing crossfield kicks and all that. So, in those calm conditions with nothing to. But it's a bit of a bizarre thing from New Zealand Rugby to do that the day after announcing Invercargill. I'm not sure what the sort of logic behind that was. Maybe, but yeah, I mean Highlanders know how to play under there, and they've sort of mastered that art over the few years. So I'm not on the bandwagon as such, but probably them and the Blues are the two teams. So I circled it. I thought it would probably benefit the most. Crusaders will just do what they do. I don't think they're going to be too worried. They've just got such a good sort of sort of structure in place.
How about you, Paul? Are you adjusting any power ratings or anything like that now that we're playing under the roof more?
Yeah, I think it favours the Hurricanes slightly.
I'm shocked.
I do. I think being able to play with a dry ball under optimum conditions will, depending on what sort of game plan they go in with, but they've got a lot of weapons out wide, and with Geordie at the back having a bit of a roving commission, I'm sure that's exactly what they want to do: get the ball as wide as they can, as soon as they can. With Ruben Love controlling things. So I think it does. It sort of favours them slightly. I don't think it favours the Highlanders as much, just because there's no crowds. I think if there were crowds in there, then certainly you could sort of, I guess, favour them another point, maybe a point and a half sort of thing. But I think it's not really here nor there in terms of favouring the Highlanders. Yeah, I agree. I think the Blues and the Hurricanes will be probably the two most favoured teams under those conditions.
Yeah, like I see the whole argument of it's going to favour the teams with the best backs or who like to play that sub. I actually think we might not know who it's going to favour yet, because if you sort of look at all the teams, they've all got plenty of talent in the back lines. I think match fitness is going to be the big thing, because all these games are going to be played at a breakneck pace now, and it's going to be, who's got the best preseason underneath them, who can play at full tilt for 80 minutes, who's got the best depth coming off the bench probably to keep going in the last 20 when the lungs are really burning and you've been running wind sprints for the last 60 meters chasing kicks under the roof. So yeah, I'm not so sure the Hurricanes and Blues will be fair. I can see that, but yeah, I think it's one of those ones that
I did see the Hurricanes doing some sort of biathlon type run bike sort of thing up and down Mount Vic and around Oriental Parade about a month ago. So
they do that every year.
Yeah, well, they were looking fairly fit as I was sipping on my hot chocolate.
Look, I hate to break it to you, Paul, but I'm pretty sure all 6 teams have done some sort of preseason fitness work. Not quite sure if you realise that, but yeah.
No, fair enough. No, I was just saying, I just saw them. They're out and about.
No, good to know. Good to have our man on the ground providing all the inside information. But
big time.
Just one last piece of news that we'll touch on before we get into the team previews. The NPC format as well has been changed for 2022. They finally heard the cries from the Taranaki, and everyone's going to have a shot at the the big trophy this year. 2 is it odds and evens pools. I don't know what's wrong with North and South, but going odds and evens, and then it's going to be quarterfinals, semifinals, and final. Give everyone a shot. Are you happy with that, Richard? Do you think that's a better result than what we had?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talked about it a couple of times on the podcast over last year in particular. Just with, especially after all those Auckland teams got knocked out, that was a bit of a joke. They were playing each other every second week, So I've heard a lot of people going on, that's going to really not be good for the sort of lower teams, but they were still playing.
Tasman and Taranaki.
They were still playing against those teams anyway. Taranaki were in the championship, and they were probably the best team of they were. They're hands down the best team of last year. So, yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a no-brainer. I think that they definitely would have been coming for a few years. They tried the premiership and championship sort of thing. That never really took off to that. So, hopefully Taranaki can keep up that form and push for the premiership next year.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit awkward if Taranaki just have a flop next year and they go like 3-7 or something. Yeah.
No, it makes sense. As you say, surely they could have come up with something better than odds and evens.
Really, odds and evens, does that just mean alphabetically?
It's from the last year's standing, so they ranked them 1 to 14, and then 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 get chucked in one pool. And I don't really know. I guess it's in case you end up with a big imbalance in North v South or something. But for me, I would just like to see the regional rivalries.
And they're still going to play against.
There's still 3 crossover games, so it's essentially the same pool. I guess it's just to even the quality draws a bit. So I'm happy, because I think especially for the smaller unions, it does mean you only have to have 1 good season to really you kind of had to have 2 good seasons in a row if you're a small franchise, because you'd have to get into the championship or premiership in the first place and then have a second push, where a lot of the time you had your best players plucked off by All Black duty or go overseas because they had the 1 good season. So it just opens it up much more, and quarterfinals are always fun, so get involved with that. But
one or two might have a go as well.
Yeah, well, that 2014 team, they very easily could have won the whole thing if they'd been given the opportunity. They'd flying that year.
Living in the past, Patrick. Living in the past.
Yeah, but do we want to get on to the late 70s? Frank Oliver, anyone? No? Okay, all right. Moving on
Donaldson.
How good. Paul wants to do it next week, the 1970s 1 or 2 podcast.
Just its own podcast, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Frank Oliver.
So I'm not going to stop you. Should we get to a team with an equally dominant forward pack, the 2022 Canterbury Crusaders, or just Crusaders as they are known now?
Well,
I don't think there's really too much to go in here, despite the just absolute wealth of talent they've got. Because we all know a couple of weeks ago we all took the Crusaders versus the field. Fisky was the only one taking the other line of thinking, but obviously the sort of lost a few players, but no real massive losses. Michael Alatoa, Luke Romano, Tom Sanders, Fidu Douglas from the forward pack, the great Brett Cameron, Nari, and Manasa Maraele missing from the back line, all sort of bit part players at the most last season. But he had in Pablo Matera, as well as Tatura Tahuriarangi and Kanina Holo, and maybe his brother as well, who's been training with them. So
played in the. Did they play that preseason game on the weekend?
Yeah. I think they lost by 1 point. It was in just an absolute downpour.
Him and Freedom Vahakola were both playing for Crusaders,
because that's what they need, more outside backs. We'll get to the back three in a second, but first of all, are there any weaknesses on the side you can pick out, Rusty?
It's hard to. It'd probably need to be an injury if there was. Maybe a halfback, but even with sort of, they've kind of got 3 they've got 3 solid players, but no one who. I mean, you could basically make an All Blacks team from the rest of the squad, But I think if there was an injury to a Moanga, or probably Cody Taylor in particular, I think there'd be a bit of a weakness there. But I mean, those two are basically starting All Blacks as it is. So Moanga's out for this couple of weeks, or just first week?
First. He's definitely missing the Hurricanes game, and I think a week after that as well.
Yeah, so. But it's hard to pick out too much. I mean, if everyone stays fit, the addition of Matera in the back row is just ridiculous. We've got two, Barrett and Whitelock start, Pitten Strange or Dunshee on the bench. So it's just. I see the price has gone down to $2.50, and I'm definitely still taking that $2.50.
The pick and go bump.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there such a thing?
Apparently. Well, we got the Drua knocked in as well.
Oh, I do. I still like them to make the quarters. I see we've got markets up for that now.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to it, Paul.
Oh, right. Yes.
I did send you the run sheet, right? But do you want to? Have you got any weaknesses if you were doing some opposition scouting you might point to in the Crusaders lineup?
Well, you two basically said it. It's basically an All Black team there outside of the halfback position.
And Ricky Drummond has played one All Blacks game as well. So you know,
but plus an Argentinian international. It's solid all round. As you say, in a number of positions, it's not about who they're going to pick; it's who they're not going to pick. They've got an abundance of riches in pretty much all positions outside of probably halfback and hooker, and maybe first 5'8" as well. If Wonga goes down, things change significantly. But
you can say that about any team, though, right? You pick one of their star players, and if he gets injured, like if Bodie goes down, the Blues are probably in trouble. Well, actually, maybe not Bodie, but certainly Chiefs. You could certainly say the same about Kane or Retallick. Hurricanes, if Geordie goes down, you might as well. And
I think if Artie goes down, they're in a whole lot of trouble.
The
thing with the Crusaders is they seem to have a lot of depth in most places. So it's going to be very, very tough. It's not a big sort of shift for them down to Queenstown, so it's almost homish for them. So I can understand why punters have gotten on. They've got the history, they've got the squad to do it again. They're very well coached. Who coaches them? I can't remember.
Some blonde fella.
Does he still dance, or
he breakdances?
Was he a dancer first and then a coach, or was I don't know?
He was a surfer first, and then he took up breakdancing. Is that right?
Yeah. So, and they're a well-run franchise. That's why they've won so many times.
And like we said last week, I think they'll thrive in the bubble environment. That sort of being able to just be all about rugby for 3 or 4 weeks at least. And I know the way Razor runs things down there, it's sort of all energy all the time. So I think they'll really feed off that environment and being around each other 24/7, and be a great way to get a few of the rookies involved in, like Pablo Matera, make him feel part of the team and everything like that. So yeah, but one area I do want to touch on just before we move on, because I'm just super excited about their back line and the back three in particular. It's, Will Jordan, Lester Fainga'anuku, Sevu Reece, George Bridge. You've got Jack Goodhue coming back from injury. I see he's been back at training already. Braden Enor as well, who still super high on. Come the end of the season, who do you think is their first choice back three? If everyone's
Jordan's at fullback.
Yeah,
has to be. I'd put Reece on the right wing, and I'd like to see Fainga'anuku on the left wing. I think that they'll probably go with Bridge, and then potentially use Fainga'anuku as an impact player, and he can also play in the midfield as well. So, but Fainga'anuku, I love watching him play. Last year he was I thought that he would. It was unlucky not to make the All Blacks. So, I think we talked about Bolters a few weeks ago. I don't know if his name was thrown out there. He's eligible. Yeah. I don't know if his name was thrown out there then, but I wouldn't be surprised if he can get some good game time to see him sort of knocking on the door there as well.
He's the big bolter for the All Blacks. Don't forget.
Thank you, Paul.
Never played for them before.
Just want to touch on Lester Fainga'anuku's $12 in the Crusaders top try scorer market, and he's probably not, and maybe the original first choice back three, but you got to think he's going to play most games. He doesn't have the All Black rest policy to worry about, and between he can play in the midfield. So if they do want to ease Goodhue back in, and they can play on either wing, he's going to, I think, play as many games as anyone else. He scores tries when he's on the field. So Will Jordan, Sevu Reece, obviously threats in that market, but $12 for Fainga'anuku.
Yeah. So what's Reece and Jordan?
$325 and $350. Yeah.
Having a look yesterday at this and stats, and I actually circled Reece over Jordan, just because based on the last 3 or 4 seasons, he's been top scorer twice and maybe second or third once. So, but it's not a bad shout. I don't mind that at all. As a value player, definitely.
Big time. And I think that he will finish in their top 15 by the time we get to the end of the season. I get the feeling they'll stick with Sevu Reece, Bridge, and Jordan to start the season. But I think Fainga'anuku will get his chance, and he'll take it with both hands and force their hand. So that $14 may look a very, very nice price halfway through the season.
Yeah, and just another thing to consider with that is what, like, they might prefer Bridge in a few of the games against tougher opposition than New Zealand teams, but maybe, you get the chance to unleash Whanganui against the Australian teams, or where there's going to be more tries scored. Maybe his deficiencies under the high ball and kicking game, where Bridge sort of excels.
Was he top try scorer in the NBC last year? Do you know?
I can't remember if
He was definitely out
was it
there.
Coombs Fabling?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I think he was like those two were sort of neck and neck.
He was
maybe Coombs Fabling.
Well, it wasn't a hooker.
No, we were getting better than even money on him to score a try each week. I remember, because I was snapping it up pretty quickly.
All over it.
No, that's I don't think there's anything else to add on the Crusaders. Right, we're all picking them to win the title. We'd still take the $2.50. Yeah. Like, even if they sort of don't start with a hiss and a roar, because Mo'unga's away the first couple of weeks and everything, they're going to be there or thereabouts. They're going to be favourites in every finals game they play.
Yeah,
I guess you really want to know who's starting on the wing against Moana Pacifica.
That is true.
That could go a long, long way to securing yourself a nice little hat trick or something to jump ahead of the pack. So, I'd just be watching for that. In fact, watch for the Blues side to be named on for the first match of the round, and then go and see what the prices are for the starting outside backs.
Yeah, and another one that just hadn't even done any pro research, but just jumping in there, Jacob Ratumatavuki-Nipkin's favourite of mine, another absolute pace merchant. I think he's New Zealand under-20s former player, like, got plenty of talent. I wouldn't be shocked to see him take the starting 14 jersey off Mark Talia at some stage this season. He's $12 in the same market for the Blues, and if he starts on Friday night, maybe jump on there, get ahead of the market, and then you can play around with the more favoured options later in the season to lock in a profit. But just an idea. Should we move on to the Blues then?
Let's go. Head north.
I know you're very excited about the Blues this season. A couple of All Black bolters potentially lurking in that backline, Paul.
Look at that. Yeah, a certain Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, who has never played for the All Blacks. In fact, has never played senior rugby in New Zealand. So here we go. Big time. He's a bolter, all right, in every sense of the word. Oh, crikey. Semantics, you two. You look at the overall squad, and once again, there's a certain amount of depth in a number of positions. I guess if we look at the players that they've lost, the leadership of Tui Pulotu is the big one there. But
TJ Finley as well, I think.
Yeah,
he welded that backline together so well. He was brilliant defensively, maybe the best defensive midfielder in the competition last season. And
into Roger Tuivasa-Sheck.
Look, I'm not saying he's better than RTS, but I'm just saying maybe they could have used. But I think his loss is being underrated.
It would have been good for RTS to have played NPC as well, just to have a bit of that, bit of time under his belt. But
once again, it's I guess if you're looking at positions where they may not have that depth, Lock sort of sticks out for mine, and then I guess. I don't know. I was going to say halfback, but Finlay Christie, he played very, very well last season, and he's now a genuine All Black contender. In the scrum, Lock. Outside of that, they do have a very, very good look about them. I just think the Crusaders just a wee bit better.
All Blacks props, I think.
Yeah.
Although, you think back to certainly remember how hyped up we were for the first Crusaders Blues game last year at Eden Park on the Sunday afternoon, and then their set piece was just an absolute disgrace. That whole game, they couldn't get their hands on any ball. The Crusaders just big dogged them. They're like, no, we're still the top team here. Obviously we've got Bodie and RTS and a few others in there, but the set piece is going to be a huge issue for them if they can't get that right against the Chiefs and Crusaders in particular are going to be great there. I think that could be when you're talking about against the top teams. But this backline, do you think it could be 2003 Blues level? If everything clicks right, I'd have to.
Oh, look, as I said before, I sort of watched those highlights from that preseason game against the Hurricanes and what they were doing in those conditions, and they were missing. I don't think Bodie was playing.
Yeah.
I think actually, he played a bit, but it was more they were easing him in. they were doing these crazy crossfield kicks, and they were running it back from inside the 22, and yeah, it was beautiful to see. So if they can do that under the roof, I'm looking forward to, and if sort of Bowden can, I don't know, it's been sort of went over to Japan and probably wasn't his best for the All Blacks last year. So he had that obviously amazing game, his 100th game against Wales. But if he can sort of return to his best in Super Rugby, I'm really looking forward to that back line. But it's in the forward, just a few areas in the forwards where they might.
Because they still couldn't stop a rolling maul on Sunday. The
Yeah.
Hurricanes' first tries both came from 5 metre
Was it
line.
three? So a penalty try?
No, then they scored one.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the Canes had plenty of success at the set piece. So it was, that first one in particular, the penalty try, I think the Hurricanes could have ended up in Thorndon if they wanted to keep going. So maybe they were hoping Paul could come and watch them at the Cake Tin and just send them all there.
Like I said, they were training hard up and down Mount Vic and around Oriental Parade. Just saying.
But so this Blues season for you, Paul, like they're obviously very hyped up, but not picking over the Crusaders. Do you think for them to consider it a success, it's title or bust? Like, is this what it's all been building towards?
No, I think it's grand final.
Yeah.
If they make the grand final, I think that's the season is a success. If they go and win it, well, hey, great. But I think if they make the grand final, big time. It's a success for them. I think if they make the semis and lose in the semis, then it's sort of like I guess like a C, sort of just just an average sort of. Well, sort of expected you to get at least this far anyway. So I think it's more about how their combinations sort of progress during the season. Once again, they've got plenty of firepower in that back line, and with Bodie back to guide them round, they should be able to score a number of points. It's like you say, getting parity and set piece, and also defense, stopping other teams from, especially as we saw in that preseason game, stopping teams and the rolling maul from line out sort of thing. They still quite haven't sorted that out, although the Hurricanes really haven't figured it out either.
No, that is also true. But and sort of just what you said there on getting the combinations used to each other, they've certainly, maybe in the opposite to Minor Pacifica, been handed a pretty good start by the schedule makers. Kick off with the Minor Pacifica under the roof, and then they get the Hurricanes on Sunday afternoon in round 2. So not being like no Crusaders or Chiefs lurking in there early on. So they will have a chance to maybe ease their way into the season, and hopefully both
get the points on the board, as Paul would say.
Absolutely, get a bit of a advantage to the field. So I think that'll definitely help them, because if they were playing the Crusaders week 1, that could be an issue with these guys not having played a lot of rugby together.
So what happened last year when that happened?
I think Colsey will give Bodie a bit of a tap around the back of the head just to welcome him back, sort of thing.
I'd hope so.
Yeah, I have no doubt something will happen.
You know me, I'm just a massive fan of all Dan Coles' work. Anything else we want to touch on before so we're thinking, like finalists or semi-final? We'll get to our official finals picks later, but like they're $1.25 to make the semis, so I think that's the minimum expectation from all of us, right?
I don't think you can back them to make the quarters, can you?
Them and
the Crusaders.
Yeah.
Chiefs $1.01.
Yeah. Canes $1.02. You taking that, Paul? Best bet.
I need a wee bit more meat on the bone for me to have a go.
Just quietly leave me out of the $1.35 for the Hurricanes to make the semis.
Yeah, that's yuck.
The $2 available for the Highlanders, though. We can talk to that. Another team I think will be right up in there and right at the pointy end, probably challenging the Blues for a spot in the final, just down the motorway to Hamilton, the Chiefs, where they welcome back Brodie Retallick, get Josh Ioane in the fold, obviously. Clayton McMillan, once again, the head coach. A couple other additions, guys who have played NPC rugby for Clayton McMillan and Tyrone Thompson and Moni Narawa. Obviously lose Damien McKenzie and Lachlan Boucher to the Japanese top league, as well as Nathan Harris, who's been forced to retire, unfortunately. Tutura Tahurirangi heading down to Christchurch, and Balin Sullivan is doing the Hurricanes. Does the addition of Josh Ioane make up for the loss of McKenzie in your eyes, Richard, or is that a net?
Doesn't make up for it, but I think it's a good sign nonetheless. I like Josh Ioane as a player, and I don't know, maybe he had to get out of the Highlanders sort of culture, but he was playing pretty well towards the end of last season for the Highlanders, and then I thought his NPC form he was one of the best players in the comp, so because Mackenzie was playing mainly fullback last year.
Yeah. I think we've realised he's not a first five now, right? He played a few games there, mainly in Super Rugby Trans-Tasman.
That's what I was thinking.
Was he in the 10 jersey where he tried to take Tate McDormand's head off, apparently?
That we carried.
Yeah.
What a game. Yeah, so I think it's good signing, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he goes. He seemed to sort of come on. I think he came on halfway through that pre-season match against Moana Pacifica, and he looked good. He had a couple of nice kicks on the tee. So he's an accurate kicker. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he goes. I don't think doesn't quite make up for Mackenzie. Mackenzie's just so dangerous with ball in hand, but he definitely offers a lot himself. Yeah,
sure. Do you think we'll see the best of Josh Ioane in a Chiefs jersey? Paul, obviously the Clayton McMillan factor was big in getting him up to Hamilton. Do you think they can turn him back into that player that was in All Blacks contention a couple of years ago?
Yes, I do. Yes, I think it's a very, very good move for Josh. I think it'll be sort of head down, bum up, hard work, no silly business, which I think he probably needed. So I think it's a great move for him. It's a great move for the Chiefs with the departure of Mackenzie, even though Mackenzie was more a 15 than a 10. I think it just gives them another option at first 5'8". I'm not sure who they're going to start, whether they'll start with Gatlin or Josh.
Surely Josh.
But you'd love to be behind that Chiefs forward pack. It just looks like a nice, huge, immovable object, that forward pack. As you said, Brodie Retallick back, Tupou Va'ai, the young fella Josh Lord.
Even Naitoa Akoi was looked like a super prospect last year. Like they're just printing locks off the production line up there in Hamilton.
They are. And then you go to the loose forwards where you can pick from Sam Kane, Luke Jacobs, Peter Gusto Wakula. Is that the younger Boucher as well?
Yeah. Okay. Even Mitch Brown's a super solid Super Rugby performer. Like he'll do a job for you. If he's your third loose forward next to Kane and Jacobson or something, you're in pretty good.
It's probably the deepest pack in Super Rugby in terms of the amount of cover they've got. If one drops, there's someone else that they can jump up and go, yeah, I'm ready. So
we haven't even touched on Samasoni Taukei'aho, who was on fire for the All Blacks towards the end of last season. If he can carry that form, Bradley Slater who can play 7 now as well, apparently, after doing that for Taranaki when they had all those injuries last year. And they've got Aidan Ross, Atu Moli, Angus Ta'avau, plenty of depth in the front row as well. And I think more than anything, I'm going to be team Clayton McMillan and backing him to turn the pack into more than some of its parts and it's already got so many good parts.
They're going to have so much good go forward ball for that back line. It's a matter of whether they can convert that into points. So yeah, I've got no worries with the forwards. Look, they're no slouches in the back line either. It just doesn't have a Ferrari look to it, their back line. It looks more like a solid, mistake-free type back line without being overly flashy. Passat. What's that?
It's like a Volkswagen Passat. Very, it's going to drive well. You're not going to get in any trouble, but maybe if you need to get in a drag race.
You're possibly being a wee bit nasty there. That wasn't the model that I was thinking of when I was trying to describe what the Chiefs back line sort of look like, but they do have.
What would you compare them to then, Paul?
Well, no, I don't want to say. I'm just saying that they have more of a solid look about them as opposed to a flashy look about them when you compare them to the other backlines in the comp.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Are you at all concerned that they might struggle to convert their dominance up front into points, just with especially that back three looking maybe a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, they'll miss Mackenzie a lot, but no, I think that it looks like a really well-rounded squad on the whole. You got pretty good Haas pairing, Weber and either Gatland or Ioane. Leonard Brown and Tupai. I thought Tupai was one of the finds of last year in that All Blacks.
If he's getting front foot ball, just
Yeah,
rampaging at defensive lines as well, he's going to be great at sort of that second phase, getting past the advantage.
Who will
line.
play fullback out of those?
Maybe Rayhana, I'd imagine, or like Sean Stevenson can play there. They've not. Chase Tiatia is also another option. He's probably more of your rocks or diamonds fullback, shall we say? I think they probably want more of a custodian back there, just with the dominance they'd hope to have up front.
Yeah. So I mean, they will miss McKenzie, but no, I'm liking the Chiefs. I think they'll make a good push towards the final this year, and the return of Michala is huge. Hopefully he can sort of the via him
play him on the wing.
Lord can learn from his wisdom, because he came back with All Blacks last year and probably wasn't. I don't know whether he was at his best, but I think no one was really at their best in that series. They really All Blacks struggled a bit, so I think he'll be huge and come back and Takiaho. Put him on the wing. Jeepers.
They've got plenty of options.
Beautiful to watch.
Richellick and Takiaho on the wings. You've got enough other forwards to fill in the gaps. So,
He scored a couple of tries for the All Blacks on the right down the sideline.
Yeah, he got that double at Waikato Stadium, didn't he, against Fiji? That was great.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Off the bench.
It scored 4.
No, that was the second test. But just before we move on again, same question. What's the expectation of the Chiefs? Do you think they're going in saying we want to be in the finals, Paul? Or in the final?
They're probably going in saying we're going to win the whole lot.
They weren't that far away in Christchurch. They could have won that final, like a couple of decisions go the other way.
And the penalties they've gone over.
Fair dinkum. As a Kane supporter, don't say, if decisions have gone this way. If there's any team that's had decisions not go their way, it's the team from the tin.
You think I bring Manawatu up a lot? It's like Paul Marty's Hurricanes hour over here.
It was Super Rugby.
But yeah, like you got to think, right? They were in the final last year. They were very competitive against the Crusaders there. They get Brody back, and like probably their attitude is like, we go one better this season, right? It's like run it back. And
and I think in that Trans-Tasman comp, because they lost that final, it sounded like they had a bit of a big night, and they maybe didn't come in with the right sort of mentality early in that competition.
Well, they still almost won that game against the Reds, even 13 men for half the time. So they went far away.
No, I'm the same, mate. I've got them. Pushing for the title.
Yeah, especially in those finals games, like when maybe you don't need to be scoring 40 points to be winning, like having that sort of pack and that dominant platform to build off, I think will come.
They just knew how to win last year, eh? Like they were tough wins as well.
Didn't they win like every game by under 7 points or something? So I think I'm pretty high on the Chiefs for sure. I've got to run through the rest of the teams quickly because I've done a terrible job as a host once again and let us get completely out of time here. But
not too much to talk about here.
Well, I want to move over. The Reds are one team. I'm not completely writing off amongst the Australian group. They obviously won Super Rugby Trans-Tasman Super Rugby Australia last year, and while they only got the one win in Super Rugby Trans-Tasman, they were scoring points against New Zealand teams, which is more than I think a lot of their opposition could say. Lots of young talent in the back line. Like I know we're big fans of Tate McDermott during the Rugby Championship last season. Jordan Pataya hopefully can stay healthy because he's got bundles of talent. They haven't added anyone with a Wikipedia page. I've noted down there, so very much bring back the same crew as last year.
That's all right though. It was a team that had some success.
Very good.
I was reading there about I think it was about over 90% of the players had all come through the sort of Queensland sort of development program. So they're obviously they're doing a good job there and got a decent team. I
think it's Brad Thorne.
He's huge.
He's totally changed the culture up there in Queensland, and I think you see it with their performance. I mean, if you're being coached by Brad Thorne, I don't think you want to get on the wrong side of him.
I don't think you want to get on the wrong side of him, even if you're not being coached by him, to be honest.
No, he's a formidable man. So you can see it coming through in the way that squad sort of performs on the field and off to a certain extent. They were always having a few troubles up there with off field. Them and New South Wales were having terrible sort of times, but he's turned that round. And they haven't lost the hell of it. they've pretty much got almost the whole squad that
Mm.
they had last season, with a few losses overseas.
Yeah, Brendan
But
playing
outside of-
is probably the biggest name.
Yes,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
But outside of that, they're pretty much good. So he can continue on with his progression with this team. So yeah,
O'Connor's still there as well.
Yeah.
Right.
That was the one maybe question I did have about Thorne, though. It was like, he's obviously a great culture builder, and he's brought the Reds up from pretty much the basement to where they are now. If their goal is to like be competitive with New Zealand teams and want to be winning Trans-Tasman or Pacific competitions, do we think Thorne's got that extra level they can go to be like one of the best teams in Australasia, like they were 10 years ago with Guinea and Cooper?
At the moment, I just don't think they've got the team, the squad to sort of compete probably with the Crusaders and Blues and Chiefs. But I think they'll, with the way that this competition's set up, with playing the Aussie teams at the start, I think that they'll benefit from that and might push for a semi-final spot.
Yeah, for sure. How about you, Paul? Are you considering them like a semi-final threat? Especially the other consideration is, I wouldn't be shocked if we end up in another bubble over in Queensland for the Trans-Tasman games at the end of the season, right?
That it's almost looking like that's a certainty, without sort of trying to force the issue. And well, as we know, the Australian teams get a slightly easier draw than the New Zealand teams, but I just still don't think. I think quarterfinals at best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I could. Yeah, they weren't, to be fair, other than the Chiefs game where they were obviously mitigating circumstances. They weren't really competitive in those other games. Like they got the doors blown off them by the Highlanders and Dunedin in week 1, and then even like the Blues game, they scored a lot of points, but they were sort of coming from behind. The Hurricanes
smashed by Crusaders. I think I was all over them in that game, and they lost by 40 or something.
Mo'unga was just like that was like classic Richie Mo'unga. Just when he gets on the front foot, you're just not stopping him. But, one more Australian team to talk about, the Brumbies. Probably not as exciting as the Reds and the pure talent they've got there, but they're a well-oiled machine at this stage. We know what to produce. They're going to produce in the Brumbies. Unfortunately, lost your boy Solomoni Kata, Richard, who's headed to Moana Pacifica.
Sad times, but good for Moana Pacifica.
Do get Jesse Mogg and Hawke's Bay legend Ollie Sapsford into the back line for the season. They were obviously could have very easily beaten the Crusaders in Christchurch during Super Rugby Trans-Tasman in that first week. Beat the Hurricanes as well. So they were probably the most competitive overall of the 5. They did finish on top of the table, but there wasn't a lot separating the teams. Do you think maybe their style of play, being that bit more dour forward-based game, will stand them in better stead to be competitive against New Zealand teams than the Reds?
Yeah, I'm still backing the Reds to sort of go better than the Brumbies, but I think the Brumbies are paying $4.50 to make the semis. And as I said before, if the way the competitions run, for them playing the Australian teams, if they can get like a home quarter final against maybe, like the way it works out, they could get
the Blues and just dominate them in the forwards.
Or even just, like one of those Australians, if they get into a position where they can, they've got so many wins.
You could very easily end up with like Brumbies Reds in the forwards 5.
With them paying $4.50 and the Reds paying $3, I wouldn't mind a piece of either of them to make the semis. But yeah, I'm interested to see sort of how it goes. I mean, hopefully Lolosio can really build from last year. He sort of got that shot in the Wallabies jersey and probably didn't take it.
Didn't kick it right in the post like he did most shots last year.
Yeah, so and him and his sort of partnership with Nick White will be interesting to see. Tom, what's his name? Tom Banks at the back. I thought he was really impressive last year. Probably couldn't convert that form into Wallabies jersey as much.
It was another. I felt like I was backing him to score tries all the time.
Yeah, well, he scored that one try against the Crusaders, and I was like, this guy's the new next bloody, I don't know, Christian Cullen, but but he wasn't the next Christian Cullen. Yeah. But yeah, there's a little bit of excitement in that back line, but yeah, they're really going to sort of rely on the forwards to sort of just
grind out games.
So if when you put it that way, and you consider compared to last year, they probably actually have more of a chance to get a win or two over the New Zealand teams.
They might at least pick up more bonus points and that sort of thing. And
because their win was against the Hurricanes. That was a great game, actually. Yeah.
No, it was not. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, it was exciting. It was just back and forth. And I think I was actually on the Brumbies that game on the bus. So.
No, that's Well, I would say that pretty much sums it up. I think we expect to see them both in the final in the top 8 somewhere. Not sure exactly if they'll get many wins over New Zealand teams, but definitely a chance of causing an upset in the quarters if they get the right draw. Yeah, like it's not probably a lot more else to say on those two. Like I do expect them to be pretty like competitive, and they've got good systems in place, those two sides. So yeah,
look, if they get the conditions to suit, where it's a night game with the rain is hosing down.
-3 in Canberra at 7 o'clock in the evening, sort of thing.
Exactly, it would suit their style of play big time, and they could frustrate another side out of the quarters, sort of thing. So it's not a crazy thought for them to make the semi-finals, but they'd need a few things to go their way for that to happen.
No doubt. I don't think we need to add anything else on the drill. We've pretty much touched on them, right? We're all very fired up. We'd take the +3.5 you can get.
Oh yeah, that's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what the total points line is.
Yeah, I was going to take the over whatever it is, provided it's not hosing down in Sydney. So yeah, we're Team Drua on this podcast. Everyone knows that. So, see you at 9:45 next Friday for the Drua party.
Bulavinaka.
You bring the carver?
Oh, crikey, I have to pick some up. Yeah.
Good.
I'll make it now.
That's what we like to hear. But before we move on to Six Nations, just going to go quick fire because we are running out of time, but I want your quarterfinalists, who's going to make the final, and your outright winner from each year. I'll let you go first, Paul. Just bang if you can.
Just bang. Do I have to name the when it comes to the quarterfinals? Do I have to name the obvious ones, the ones that aren't actually?
Or you can say who's missing out if you just want to name 4 teams instead of 8. That might be easier.
Waratahs, Moana Pacifica,
yeah,
Rebels,
and
the Force.
And who's finalists and winner?
Finalists.
So you got the draw in the quarters.
Sorry, yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes.
No, that's all good. I was just trying to figure that out. It's a very confusing way to do it.
Yeah.
Crusaders beat the Chiefs in the final.
Right. And you, Richard? What do you got?
I've got the 5 New Zealand teams: Brumbies, Reds, and Rebels. It's the 8th team, and Crusaders, Chiefs. Crusaders to win.
Okay. Well, we're all 5 New Zealand teams: Brumbies, Reds, and the Drua in the quarters, and the Crusaders being the Chiefs in the final. I'm shocked none of us had the Blues in the final, but. Yeah.
Well, Fisky with us.
Yeah. So put it on the bulletin board and whatever hotel the Blues are staying in Queenstown.
Crusaders Chiefs final 450.
Yeah, I do like that, especially compared to the
450.
Yeah.
Nice. Fiji and Drua 350 to make the quarters.
Load up.
Come on, punters, get on. Let's see a pick and go bump again.
Yeah.
Make note of that. 3 lots 50. Yeah, I'd love to take them at 350, but I'd be happy to see it. I'd be happy to have them in to see it.
We might have to organise a pod trip to Suva for the quarterfinal or something. If they get a home quarter, we'll be there. I'll make it happen one way or another.
Live from the pool, the pool bar.
Suva Novotel pool bar.
Sure, Paul will know where to go, where the hot spots
We better
are.
take our laptops just in case we get stranded there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe head down to the bye races on the Saturday afterwards.
Fantastic.
Let's make it happen. All right, but should probably touch on the Six Nations quickly before we tie it for today, because it was a pretty good round of footy over the weekend. Obviously, congratulations to you two. You got your Scotland pick right. Not that I was shedding any tears to see England go down like that. It was a lot of fun. No.
You go out for it?
Yeah. No, I was up. Had my coffee and my blasting out Flower of Scotland in the lounge at 5:45 in the morning.
Got the second half, and it was great to watch.
Yeah, but I think it's all about obviously France at Ireland this week, right? That's the big one. Probably a title decider now with England going down at Murrayfield. France $1.60 and 3.5 point favourites. Not the best performance you've ever seen from that France team against Italy, but they did get the job done. Ireland, pretty classic Ireland, just didn't give Wales a look in against them on Sunday morning our time. Yeah.
Ireland.
Do you think they can
cover the 14.5?
They did. Yep. I think the Wales team total, I forgot to actually check what it ended up being in the end, but I'm pretty sure it would have been less than 7.5, more than 7.5. So got that one up too. Can you see Ireland shutting France down at all?
Yeah, I'm sticking on the Ireland train. They just did everything right against Wales. They just looked really good. They just seem to be a well-rounded squad. They've got talent everywhere. France, I mean, they looked rusty, but maybe that's what they've done. They've got the rust out early, and but no, I'm happy to take Ireland there. I thought they're down to $2.63 in the outright market, down from I think it was $4 last week when Paul and I tipped that. So the punters and the bookies know what's up. And then France have gone out to $2.37 there. So I'm just worried if whether Ireland are peaking at the wrong time pre-World Cup.
That doesn't sound like Ireland.
Seems to happen every year. But yeah, no, I just think they look great, and I'm happy to take them plus a few points this week. 3.5, is it?
Yeah, that's the line last I checked. How about you, Paul? What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm happy to take the 3.5 as well that the Irish are getting. I thought they were very, very good last week defensively. They showed up. I'm always wary of a French side that puts on a mediocre performance the week before, and then all of a sudden goes bang the next week. I'm banking on the Irish not letting that happen. Obviously, that's a lot harder said than done. But I just saw enough from the Irish, and as you know, we're not in a World Cup year, so they are probably at their peak right now. And I think they'll be taking this. Obviously, it's basically a grand final with the Poms going down last weekend. So I just think the Irish will be able to get up for this one. So I do like the plus 3.5. The other one I like is Wales. I just think I'm not sure the Scots have stopped drinking since last weekend.
I think we got ourselves a Kebab Bet.
Oh wow!
I'll take it. I'll give you the 1.5 start.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's only 1.5.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll be all over that.
If they play Josh Adams at 13 again, that could be another 13 plus. That against that Scottish backline.
Yeah. I'll take the 1.5. Wales are getting. Yeah. They weren't allowed to play their game last week by the Irish, and I just think the Scots, having got up emotionally last week and winning it right on the death, I just see them having a wee bit of a downer this weekend.
I don't know about that. All it takes is them to win this week, and then to make France trip up when they come to Murrayfield in a few weeks' time, and Scotland could be. I mean, they're paying $7. I wouldn't probably, they're probably not a bad play if things play out their way, because the way France is going, if they lose this week, Scotland will be aware they need to win here. I think I'm happy to take Scotland.
And I was actually really impressed with the way Scotland managed that game for a lot of the part. Like when their strength the last few years has been their sort of pace and power out wide, like Stuart Hogg, obviously, and then Van der Merwe on the wing, Darcy Gray, and they've got actually really talented backs. But Finn Russell, the way he controlled that game, his kicking game was brilliant. I think he might be the best 10 in the world on form at the moment, like with Bodie Moanga maybe not firing quite the same way, and Tamak still maybe not his best from coming back from that injury. He was excellent, and I think just they've got such a good base to build from with that halves pairing between him and Ali Price. Wales are in all sorts. Just defensively, they got no midfielders available. Chris Harris and Sam Johnson could tear them up if they get going. So I think, especially if it's under the roof in Cardiff, they presume they'll open it. Actually, they have to, I think, due to COVID regulations. But if it's not raining sideways in there, Wales could be in all sorts. Paul.
Okay.
All right. But just. Back to the other game. I do think the bookies got it about right with the 3.5 line in Paris. So I'm just going to take France 1-12. I think they'll get the job done. But they're not going to blow Ireland out with that defense. I kind of think the Italy game was an open training run for them. There was a lot of moves they didn't quite pull off in the red zone that looked like they were working on for next week. So and they'll have a few things up their sleeve, and two of the things up their sleeve are Anton de Pont and Romain Ntamak. So whenever you got those two going around, you've got to feel pretty good. I just don't think Ireland you can't contain that attack for 80 minutes the way France were. Like, they were still dominating territory against Italy. So I'll be on them. No one wants to talk about England versus Italy, I'm guessing.
I'll take the minus. I think England will bite back. But
Eddie Jones will
No.
probably sub Marcus Smith off after 23 minutes or something.
yeah, they'll be hurting. But
He looked all right there, boy.
He was brilliant. Why did
Yeah.
you bring him off?
Yeah,
he
he
was
looked
like
all right.
the attacking cog, and like they didn't even really let him do that much when he was on the field. So yeah, no,
old strategy.
I'm buying all the Marcus Smith stock I can get. That's for sure.
What about that yellow card in that game? Eh?
How good? Does anyone think it wasn't a yellow card? Like,
No. I mean,
yeah, I saw some.
I was surprised it was a yellow card and a penalty try, but so I think that's just.
But that's the
what
rule,
goes,
right? You
that's the
have to
rule, yeah.
pretend he's not there. It's the same as
Yeah.
the Sonny Bill one against France a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. So that's the rule.
just
Yeah.
pretend you're not like if you got to
There's
win.
no
it,
attempt
yeah,
at all.
yeah.
Like, he could have at least tried to catch it, but it was just, it was bizarre, and that was the turning point, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So he'll be
Yeah, it was the
feeling
turning
it
point.
this week, I'm sure.
yeah. No, well, looking forward to seeing Scotland ride that wave and run up some points at Cardiff on Sunday morning.
Wipeout.
So that's glad to. It's always good to get the first official Kebab Bet of the season on the records too. So
Thanks
Thanks,
to many, I'm sure.
partaking in that, Paul. I think that about does us for the week. Unless there's anything you two want to touch on, you're both away next week, so if you want to make any picks for week 1 or anything, now's your chance.
Oh,
Yeah.
see. I'll send a few hot tips.
Right, yeah. We've still got to nail down the official tipping comp for the season. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I'm on a
Send
course
them in.
next week, so I'll
yeah,
be back. In fact, I'm on a
18
few
hole or
courses.
9-hole course.
No comment.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning, Paul. It's always a pleasure to have a Hurricanes correspondent check in, and thank you for
Live in the ground.
making it into the studio, Richard. Good chat
Yeah.
there. Once again, just walking away, just ready to watch some more footy. So
Yeah, absolutely.
really
Bring it
get
on.
stuck in. Cheers for joining us again, punters. We'll be back this time next week. Not quite sure what the lineup will be, but we'll have a full week 1 preview coming at you in 7 days' time. And spoiler alert, I'm going to be back in the drawer. So tune in for that.
Now good.
Cheers, folks.